So what I thought was an easy, quick windshield swap on the silver car has evolved into an elaborate welding exercise. This project started as fixing a cracked windshield and replacing the rubber gasket. But when I removed the windshield, I found a lot of rust here in this lower corner. This is what you don't want to see. This is rust from water getting behind the seal. So I'm gonna have to really clean all this out, see if it's salvageable without any kind of welding. So I've since cleaned it out with my wire wheel and Dremel tools and phospho acid. Now what I'm left with is clean metal. This looks like silver paint, but it's not. This is shiny metal. But I have a few pinholes here. There's one there, 2, 3, 4, I think 5 total. So the goal today is to repair this as best as possible without disturbing the paint. So I'm gonna fill these pinholes with weld without bubbling the paint, hopefully. If I bubble the paint, then it's probably at least a front half respray on the entire car. And of course, I'm wearing my It's Only Metal shirt today because that's appropriate, right? I'm always fixing things with a welder. A lot of people might fix these holes with epoxy, and they're small enough where that probably would work. I like to do things with metal as much as possible. This is not really a structural area, but it can flex. You know, this is a cabriolet. Also, the expansion and the moisture and all the paint compatibility, it's 100% gonna work if it's fixed with metal. It's probably 80% chance that it would last the lifetime of the car if it was fixed with epoxy. I'm getting ready to weld this pinhole right here. It's one of the bigger ones, but I'm gonna start with that. The strategy to protect the paint is to use this microfiber towel that is saturated in water. And then I am going to just place this ice cube here, and that is going to keep it saturated and also just put some weight on it, keep it cold. I might shift it around a little bit just to get the TIG torch in there. Okay, I started to get a little steam, so I'm gonna wait. So I'm using the filler to, get to all the adjacent sides of the hole. Eventually, I'm gonna work my way all the way around, but I've got a bead started at 12 o'clock and about 6 o'clock. And I'm just gonna zap around until I get that filled up. I gotta keep my tungsten really sharp because I need lots of control getting those beads right where I want them. So I got a little buildup on that. We gotta clean that off right away. Steaming. I'm not done yet, but I wanted to show you that I've built a bead around the entire pinhole. So I started up here at like 12 o'clock. I went to 6 o'clock, then 3 o'clock. I'm just working my way around the hole. And now it's kind of fortified with weld bead around the perimeter. So it's pretty safe now to burn it in. Notice that the heat affected zone is very small. So I'm hitting this with real light amperage and real quick pulses. But now I can go ahead and burn the center in without getting too much heat in it. The ice cube is doing great at keeping the paint nice and cool. So I'm gonna do this probably in 2 or 3 more steps, and then we'll grind it smooth. So that's it, completely filled up. No damage to the paint. The seal comes way past all this, even out to here. So this will get treated with some touch-up paint and all epoxy primered, so this won't happen again. I am periodically coming in here and checking to make sure that nothing is too damaged on the inside here. There is a hose that goes to the washer squirters, and I'm just trying to make sure I don't melt that because it does get pretty close to the area that I'm welding. It's clipped up to the top there. So I've moved it, made sure I'm not damaging anything from the outside, heating up the inside. So far, so good. I went a little above and beyond and filled some divots that weren't exactly holes, but they were pretty deep pits. So I've got everything now filled up and the paint is not bubbled whatsoever. There's just enough margin where I can, touch this up and keep it from corroding, but the seal will go way past this edge right here. There's some water on the floor. Was trying not to get the water onto my foot pedal, so luckily didn't break anything. And inside is still okay. No fires or wires on fire. I did disconnect the battery just because you don't want to fry the ECU by putting weld current through the chassis. So the battery's disconnected, but I'm pretty sure we didn't damage anything with the car. That's a big relief. I put this project off because the minute I found holes, I realized it was just getting to be too time consuming. I parked this car and worked on my yellow car because when things aren't going your way, it's better not to rush it. Basically, I parked it. I had plenty of work to do on the yellow car to get it ready for the Hill Country Rally, which those events are great at sort of getting your car further along. Happy I did the Hill Country Rally. Now that it's over, was able to focus on this, take my time, and avoid a pretty expensive repair. So next thing to do is to grind the tops of these down. Some of them are pretty flush. Some of them are just a little bit tall. So I'm going to go ahead and tape this up again. I left a little bit of texture on there because I just don't want to over grind it. This is something that needs all the metal it can get. So this will get many coats of epoxy primer and I'll sand between coats and that'll fill in whatever texture is still left in here because you'd like to have a smooth surface for the seal to work against. I wish I had the gray epoxy primer, but I don't. It's expired, so I'm going to use the black. It's the best stuff I have, and it's really the correct material for this bare metal. So I've sanded it with 80. I'm just going to go ahead and brush it on for the first coat, and then we'll sand in between coats. But it's going to take several days to get this to cure and sand it and fill and sand and all that stuff. So let's just get the first coat down. That'll keep the metal protected. So the nice thing about brushing this stuff on is you're able to kind of flood that seam, and this will wick down inside there and create an even better seal than was already there. This is just sandwiched metal, it's raw. So any kind of opening like right there, I can just fill it with paint, and that's going to provide extra corrosion protection too. I'm using my boroscope camera inside here, looking at the back sides of those welds, and we'll put a little paint on there too. I know it doesn't look like much accomplished today, but this was a big obstacle to overcome. You know, addressing that surprise rust and getting it back to solid metal is really a key moment for this project. I know things look easy on YouTube, and I just want to say that I spent probably 4 to 6 hours in just de-rusting that little 2.5 foot section. Took so many passes on the wire wheel. I was using the phospho acid. I was using the little carbide burr, and I was using the grinding discs and all kinds of stuff. And it just takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of pressure on the wire wheels. It takes just forward, backwards. Believe me, it's been a long process. But it would have been a much longer process if we had to replace the whole cowl and paint the whole car. That is 100 hours plus. So I think this was a nice save. I'm really happy with the progress. Stay tuned. We'll put in the windshield next and the new rubber. And I also got the dash pad recovered, and it looks great. So I'm really excited to get the dash back in it. Thanks again for following along. The welder came through again. If you're interested, I do teach welding. This was kind of an advanced repair, but in the welding class, we do teach puddle control, amperage control, how to start and stop a weld to prevent it from going through. So the big danger on this one was obviously making the holes bigger. And I was able to put a boundary around it using some puddle magic and got the holes filled up. So that's a skill, like I said, a little bit advanced, but we go over the basics in the welding class to get you started, get you practicing, and then ultimately, you know, doing something like this would save you a lot of money. Cheers, guys. We'll see you next week.